In a wild turn of events, the man who has been chasing President Trump around the whole country, suing him from state to state in order to get his name kicked off the ballot, has just himself been arrested for several alleged felonies. That's right, the man in question is Mr. John Anthony Castro. And if his face happens to look familiar to you, well, that might be because several months ago, we published an episode discussing what he's been up to over the past year or so. Let me give you a brief refresher if you happen to miss that previous episode. Mr. Castro is a tax consultant down in Texas, but then also, more relevant to our discussion today, he is currently a candidate for the Republican primary, given the fact that he has filled out the relevant paperwork to run for president as ostensibly a Republican. Now, obviously, his campaign has gotten very, very little traction, evidenced by the fact that he has never appeared in any nationwide polls, and also evidenced by the fact that according to the records from the Federal Elections Commission, well, Mr. Castro has, thus far, raised $0 for his campaign, aside from the $20 million that he himself gave to his own campaign. However, here's the thing. It appears that winning the presidency might have not been the actual point of Mr. Castro registering as a Republican in the presidential primary. I mean, after all, he barely has any campaign infrastructure in place. And instead, what appears to have happened is that Mr. Castro registered to run as a Republican so that he could have legal standing in order to file lawsuits and have Trump removed from the ballots across all of America. Mr. Castro has, thus far, filed more than 24 federal lawsuits across the whole country seeking to get Trump disqualified from having his name appear on any of the ballots in those particular states. His legal argument is that according to his reading of the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, President Trump should be disqualified from running for office because he engaged in an insurrection. Now, if you'd like to get a deeper dive into Mr. Castro's arguments here, we actually did a point-by-point deep analysis in our previous episode, and I'll throw a link to that previous episode down in the description box below, which I will mention is that box right below those like and subscribe buttons, both of which I hope you take a moment to smash so the YouTube algorithm will share this video out to ever more people. But regardless, this is what Mr. Castro has been up to, filing lawsuits across the whole country in order to disqualify President Trump. And I will mention that the two cases over in Colorado and Maine, which actually somewhat were successful at kicking Trump off the ballot, were not Mr. Castro's. Those two lawsuits were filed by a different organization. Mr. Castro's lawsuits have actually, by and large, been dismissed one after the other. However, having his cases dismissed might now be the least of Mr. Castro's worries. That's because last week, right before the weekend, Mr. Castro was arrested on federal tax charges. And according to the federal prosecutors, he was charged with 33 counts of helping others to prepare false tax returns. Now, essentially, the allegation here is that Mr. Castro was running a virtual tax business which was giving his customers tax returns far, far beyond what they were actually owed. Here's specifically what the prosecutors wrote in the court documents. Quote, Castro would promise a significantly higher refund than taxpayers could receive from other preparers and on many occasions offered to split the additional refund with taxpayers. In order to achieve these larger refunds, Castro generated false deductions that were not based in fact and which were submitted without the taxpayer's knowledge. Then in terms of evidence, the statement goes on to read that an employee of Mr. Castro's spoke unknowingly to an undercover federal official regarding tax deductions. Quote, the employee stated that Mr. Castro would make any decisions regarding what items would be included on the tax filing. The employee did not identify any deductions that would apply to the agent, and in the course of the interview, the undercover agent denied any facts that would support deductions. However, in March of 2018, Mr. Castro allegedly filed the undercover agent's tax return with $29,339 in fraudulent deductions before the IRS sent back a refund of $6,007. Mr. Castro received $2,999 for his services. The prosecutors also added that, just like in this example with the undercover federal agent, Mr. Castro allegedly used the same tactics to create fraudulent deductions for dozens of other taxpayers as well, resulting in, quote, hundreds of thousands of improperly paid claims. Now, of course, it goes without saying that these are just charges, and everyone here in America is innocent until they are proven guilty. And for his part, Mr. Castro not only maintains his innocence, but even further than that. In a statement that he gave to Newsweek, Mr. Castro said that these charges were actually retaliation by the federal government because he dared to challenge President Trump. Here's what Mr. Castro said, quote, this is not by happenstance. This is not by pure chance at all. This is intentional targeting and political retaliation and abuse of the grand jury process. They're just concerned with a headline. Person suing Trump is arrested on tax charges. It's their way of trying to sideline me and basically just silence me. I decided to start suing Trump in September of 2023, and that is when they decided that they're going to now impanel a grand jury and present that issue and try to secure an indictment, and that is just totally bogus. And so, essentially, Mr. Castro's argument here is that the Justice Department, under the purview of the Biden administration, is politically retaliating against him because he dared to challenge Donald Trump. I would love to be a fly on the wall in that courtroom when he's presenting this argument. And present the argument he will. Because as a part of a statement, he said that he will not be accepting any plea deals and that, quote, I'm going to convince all 12 jurors that I'm 100% innocent and that this is political retaliation. And who knows, maybe he's right. Maybe when the Justice Department is not busy chasing down people who happen to be at the Capitol on January 6th, they are in fact chasing down and retaliating against President Trump's detractors. Regardless, there you have it. The man who's been filing dozens of lawsuits across the country trying to get Trump kicked off the ballot has just himself been arrested on 33 federal counts of tax fraud. Funny how it all works. If you'd like to read the full indictment against Mr. Castro for yourself, I'll throw a link to the PDF version of it down into the description box below if you happen to be the type of person that likes to dig into the weeds. And now, let me quickly introduce today's sponsor by showing you this little piece of money.
Or rather, I should say that this is fake money being printed into oblivion by those geniuses over in Washington, D.C. And so before they completely obliterate your life savings, what I recommend you do is to convert that fake money into real money, which is physical gold and silver. And the best company to use is the sponsor of today's episode, American Hartford Gold, who also happens to be my own personal gold and silver bullion dealer. They have thousands of other 5-star ratings across the country. They have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. They ship quickly, directly to your doorstep. Their product listings are awesome. They're stacked with great options of gold and silver bullion and coins, and they have amazing customer service. When you pick up the phone and call them, you feel good knowing you support a company that supports the truth getting out into the wider American audience. And so calling them up is a no-brainer. But best of all, if you tell them that Roman sent you, they will throw in up to $5,000 worth of free silver with your first purchase. It's 866-242-2352, or you can simply text the word Roman, R-O-M-A-N, Roman, to 65532. Of course, all their details will be down in the description box below. And now, let's head on back to the studio.
And now lastly, if you enjoyed today's episode and you're just thinking to yourself, man, I like this content, I just wish Roman would publish more episodes every single week. Well, you're in luck, because I do. Over on Epoch TV, our awesome no-censorship video platform, I publish anywhere between 1 to 3 exclusive episodes of Facts Matter every single week. Usually on topics that are unfortunately too spicy for here on YouTube. Even though those episodes are 100% fact-based, everything is properly sourced, well, it doesn't matter. Just some topics, some words are not allowed here on YouTube. The algorithm will pick them up and the episode will be deleted without any human ever having any input. And so if you'd like access to those exclusive episodes every single week, including a huge backlog from the last 3 years, now is a phenomenal chance to check it out because the Epoch Times has a great sale going. 25 cents a week for 6 full months. If you do the math, that's just a single $1 a month. It's a great trial subscription. Basically, the idea is just to get you in the door, have you checking out the content, watching the videos, reading the articles, checking out the infographics, the analysis, everything. Then the hope is that you fall in love with the content and be a subscriber for a long, long, long time to come. And so if you've been on the fence about trying the Epoch Times, well, perhaps take the sale as an opportunity to give it a shot. I mean, it's only a single $1 a month. The link will be right there at the top of the description box below. You can just click on that link and head on over to the sale page where you can try the Epoch Times. Of course, you can cancel anytime, but something tells me that you won't. Something tells me that you will indeed fall in love with the content and be a subscriber for a long, long time to come. Again, that link is right there at the top of the description box below. I hope you check it out. And then until next time, I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. Stay informed. Most importantly, stay free.